How's it going, comic art fans? We're back with the Renaissance man, my good buddy YoKuri. Talk about some the recent Heritage International and anime auction, and mostly just kind of look at a few pieces on in the upcoming November uh, signature. Right, is it platinum and signature auction? So yeah, and also, like to dig a little bit deeper into, big time collector Yo's collecting style, some of his opinions on the market. We actually talk a lot about, uh, prices, kind of value. I think that's important from a collector's perspective. Obviously, there's some people that we've heard have issues with talking about value. You got to collect it for the love, don't talk about the money. But at some of these prices, you know uh, I know both you and I, we think about, okay, what are we paying for here? And is it kind of worth it? I mean, there's some pieces where, like, money maybe won't matter, but I think that's few and far between, right?
You don't want to get totally soaked. You want
Yeah,
to have a
yeah,
sense
right.
of some sort of sense of where value is. But that being said, it's something that I feel like I violate all the time because I let
Yeah.
my heart get carried away with certain pieces. But wow, you're so nice to me on this on this show, but you're so
Don't worry.
mean to me in private.
Hey, we're just starting. We've got a long way to go.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, the audience, they're not always going to be able to get our inside jokes. So um
Yeah, well, don't hold back, Jason. You know, you
yeah.
can you can
Now we'll talk. We'll talk about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously didn't, last episode I didn't hold back on Bogdanov, so
No, you sure
we
didn't.
don't want to get back into there. But
No,
yeah.
no. It's not a battle that John's gonna win.
All right, so is this the okay, international art and comic art and anime
Yeah.
auction? So the first piece we want to look at is a Kirby, and a lot of Kirby's these days. There's a lot of Kirby in existence, but you wanted to take a look at this one that went for 15.6.
Yes, I loved this one. This was one that I definitely had my eye on. I'm should I have gone for it? Maybe, but it was just a little too pricey. I was hoping that it would slip through the cracks, but it didn't. But you can see that the cool thing about this page is that Bill Everett is the inker. So you've
Yeah.
got these two titans of golden age comic art coming together, and with Kirby, well, with anybody really, the inker matters so much. So uh, Everett does a beautiful job on this page, and there have been a number of other pages that have sold on Heritage that are just as beautifully inked. But this was really cool with Carnilla, Queen of the Norns, and um, you get those three guys with Balder. Just an awesome page. I don't know if this has been retouched, because if you look at you can zoom in on Carnilla in that image. You can see where her cape, it's like some of it's like a little bit darker, a little fully filled in on the left hand side of that cowl around her face.
Mhm.
And you see other parts where the ink is a little lighter, and you can see it in like the bottom left hand panel. You can see that as
It
well.
it could be just the lighting. So
Maybe,
the
yeah. I mean,
one
you can
thing with them
see.
is with Heritage is, like, I think they take pictures with just extremely bright light.
Okay.
So, it's kind of like almost a glare, right? Like
Okay.
I
Yeah.
that's my theory behind it. Like this side, I don't know, but
Right.
that's the impression I'm under is like they just have it out somewhere and
Mhm.
then camera over, just really bright lights, and then
Yeah.
get as close as they can and take a picture.
I don't own a Jack Kirby page, but if I were to own um, one, it would be, be one that looked like this, either inked by Sinnott or inked by a guy like Bill Everett. He just does his pencils justice. It's pretty
This
cool.
is yeah, I mean, Bill Everett has a style, and it looks to me when I look at this ink job he did, it's just like he was totally subservient to Kirby and like
Mhm.
um trying to create as much fidelity to his pencils and bring accuracy to that as possible. That's the impression I get, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, you don't want to overwhelm it with your own style. Like
Yeah,
sometimes Kevin Nolan inks just look like Kevin Nolan drew it himself. But I thought this one was really cool.
it is a fantastic job and a beautiful, beautiful page.
Yeah, and I thought the price was fair. I thought it was based on prior. There was another page from the same issue that wasn't quite as good as it, but sold for maybe 10 or 12 or something like that a couple of years back. So maybe in a hotter market, this one would have gone stupid,
Yeah,
20 plus or something like that. But if all you need is just one buyer like myself to be hesitant and it might settle for a much lower price than it would have gone in a hot asset market.
yeah. I mean, who knows? Yeah, if there's one extra guy, say guy, but one
Yep,
extra player, this could have taken off. But there's also a lot of Kirby options, right? So,
that's right.
all right. Next up is Hush Hush cover.
Congrats, Jason.
Oh man, not even in this league. Um, what does it say? 137.5. I mean, Jim Lee's my guy. He's when I started collecting, first, number one, how do I get something from Jim Lee? And I think Hush stuff, it wasn't that expensive. It's probably like in 2018, 2019. A lot of pages were like sub 10. It was like four figures. And yeah, well into six figures. And yeah,
What's the typical cover to panel page ratio of value
you're just talking about in general or in
in
Hush?
general? In general, yeah.
It depends, I think, but maybe you say I think it depends on the covers, right? The quality of the covers. But you would say maybe three three to 10x.
Yeah. I'm looking at some comps. So Batman 619, the triple gatefold cover,
Yeah,
three covers that sold for $500,000
yeah, yeah,
just back in June. And panel page, well, really nice action page, sold for 66 in April. Then Sexy Catwoman page sold for 50,000 in April. Oh my goodness, this cover in 2016 sold for 36.
yeah. So
The
right
same
there,
one. Not a bad
Was this at
return.
Heritage?
This was at Heritage, yeah. Amazing. 2021.
Jim Lee.
Looks
You
like
know,
pages, yeah.
I
Pages
think
are going for about 20.
you're a big Frank Miller fan, but
Hmm.
there's a generation of people where right after you, where Jim Lee is, he's right up there.
He's supreme. He's
Yeah,
supreme. He's the king
yeah.
for that era. Yeah.
And he's not doing much interior work these days, but his stuff I guess still sells. The Albert Moy just had a drop with a bunch of his covers. And they were priced around like what 35. Very modern, very recent, and they sell. So yeah, if you can get like a cover from last month, and you have to pay 35, Batman cover versus a Hush cover, right? At for 4 point something X that. I mean, which is a better buy, Probably the Hush cover, I would think.
Yeah. Jeez. It's just amazing.
So what do you think of this
These are so
price
fun.
though? And this piece?
I'm not the biggest, I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Jim Lee fan. I think it's pretty cool. I don't,
Why'd
I
you
don't
want to
know.
look at this?
Yeah, yeah, no, I did. I was just interested. I wanted to hear what you thought about it because you're a big fan. So and I was just curious about the price. I just thought it was interesting to me.
it's Hush. It's like you know, obviously I recently a lot of like these classic storylines have
Mhm,
been recognized, I think, in the comic art market. So when you talk about Hush or modern classics,
mhm,
Long Halloween, Dark Victory, right? Like those
mhm.
prices just started exploding suddenly, right?
Right,
Probably within this year, right? I don't even
definitely.
know if it was before this year. And so I don't know. I don't know where that comes from, but clearly there's a group of maybe newer buyers that read this stuff or have read this stuff and value it extremely highly.
Yeah, it's interesting. My neighbor across the street, he there's a period of time when he read comics, and I gave him a bunch of my comics to read, and he gave me a big stack of his to read, and it was all this shit I'd never read before that I knew absolutely nothing about, but
This is like
that
big
that
two
that
stuff
that
or
yeah, that Long Halloween, is
uh,
that it?
uh,
And the Dark Justice,
victory.
Dark
Oh,
Victory, yeah, and those were in there, and a bunch of Humberto Ramos X-Men.
mhm.
He was reading books. I think maybe was that the 2000s? That was a
Okay.
period of time when I was just completely out of it,
Yeah, yeah.
and I was completely out of it for Hush. So it's just interesting. Every generation's going to have their key storylines, the things that matter to them, and you're just seeing develop. And it'll be kind of interesting to see what those key storylines will be in the future for people that are reading comics today. Because I guess the 2000s, you could say that the comics boom had busted to a certain
Yeah, oh
degree,
yeah. Oh yeah.
right?
I
The
mean, I was
sales.
out. I was totally out. I mean, I was, finishing college, maybe working, and yeah. I mean, I did come back to read Hush, not
Mhm.
exactly as it was coming out, but after it came out, I'm like, you know, probably first time I heard about an absolute was Hush. And of course, as Jim Lee, of course, I got to check it out. Um, Yeah,
Right.
I mean, he's basically the only reason I ever went back to read anything, after
Okay.
my childhood. So,
Alright.
yeah, Hush, I don't know what in the future, I guess a lot of people think White Knight, Sean Gordon Murphy, you know, the Capullo Snyder run. I don't know what else, you know, but
I have
probably
to say,
nothing.
I've tried reading some of these, and I don't really get them. But maybe I'm an old fogey.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could tolerate some of these like shorter, like self-contained stories, you know, but like just entire runs, it's I'm pretty much done with that, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe a value pick from the anime auction or art and anime auction was just Peach Momoko, and she was in the news recently because like she was overwhelmed at New York Comic Con, which you were at. You were at New York Comic Con, and you know the exhibitors just apparently ruined it for everybody, just flooding her line
Oh,
before
yeah.
before the regular attendees and the fans, because she was doing, you know, maybe free signings and remarks or whatever, and but a limited number, and then so she just shut it down because they wouldn't listen to her or something. But yeah, the price just struck me 1,500 for a variant cover. I don't know what her prices are, but I'm pretty sure they're way higher than 1,500.
I would
I don't
think
know.
so. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
one of the hottest cover artists out there right now, right?
Yeah, I mean she works kind of small, like what is this? 10 by 15 or 11 by 15, something like that. Um I mean that's not tiny, but you know, smaller than
Yeah.
normal. Um but yeah, I mean I was just like, dude, it's pretty cheap, you know? If
There
you
were things that
were
slipped through the cracks in this auction for sure.
yeah. So yeah, just you know, I don't know if any viewers know what her stuff goes for usually if you're buying from her, but if it was if I was guessing, at least 2 to 3 grand is what I would guess, um, considering you know how popular she is as a variant cover artist.
Yeah.
All right, Trad Moore,
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty
Legacy,
cool.
Luther
Legacy
Strode.
issue 2. I just love his art style. You really saw the cool thing about Luther Strode is at it's a level, it's like a level up manga. It's like Dragon Ball, right? It's got to be a heavy influence where he's continually building up his skills, getting to the next level. Luther is, until he's able to defeat the big boss at the end. What's cool is that as Luther progresses, you also see Trad progress, right? So in the first one, what a strange talent. I mean, he's definitely good. He's definitely good. But you see how his style evolves, and he brings something to it. He starts off the second arc, Legend, similar, a little bit similar to what what he did in Strange Talent. It was kind of angular, like the angles were very sharp, wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
He did some splatter stuff where he'd throw paint on the page for effect. Um, but then towards the end of Legend, I'd say issues 5 and 6 of Legend, you start to see that style really start to evolve, and he starts to play with the figures and contort them even more. And then when you get to the first bit of then you get to Legacy, the final arc, and man, the guy he just goes off. He takes it to a whole nother level,
oh
where
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I
where
think
it's much more fluid, and you start to see the genesis of the style that he'd have in Silver Surfer Black. But still, to me, this is my personal favorite period of Trad's art, because there's such an attention to fine detail, but it's not just that, it's the character acting that I think he really, really emphasizes, and he was really he's super underrated as a storyteller and as a character actor. Just the facial expressions that all the characters have, I mean, it's just perfect, and his storytelling is so clear, and then yeah, if you go down to, so you can see the faces of all these characters, and then you go down to that last one on the bottom, and it's a little bit weird because there isn't a whole lot of contrast in that, but you just look at what he's built in there into that last panel. It's so wonderful, and his colorist probably wanted to fucking kill him.
Yeah.
With all these little things, and it's just sort of a level of insanity, that it was it proved to be unsustainable, right? He had to get in,
Yeah.
just sort of use larger forms, and I think he became more interested in pattern and design, and maybe less interested in character acting, which which I think is one of his greatest abilities. So to me, this was sort of peak era of trad, and I thought it went kind of cheap relative to where things have been, trading in the private market. I was thrilled to be able to pick it up at this price.
Yeah. Congrats, by the way.
Thank you,
And
thank
I
you.
agree with you. I agree with you. This is peak trad. Um, Not to bust on anything else he's done, but for me, personal preference, the story. I thought it was one of the most entertaining stories all the way through, that I've ever read. Just I like that type of stuff, the Dragon Ball Z type of stuff, which I never thought about, but it's very true. Um, you know I I have a kind of slight bias towards the legend stuff, which is a
Hmm.
little bit more angular. Um, but who can look at the legacy and not say like this is a pinnacle of you know narrative art and just skill.
Absolutely.
And the page went cheap. This is a cheap page for what it is at less than three with I sold a bunch of legend pages when I couldn't complete that issue, uh, and they were minimum 2,000. Some of them were you know just talking head whatever, but obviously his
Yeah,
skill is there.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I mean I think this was a great buy, and
yeah. And when you look at a lot of surfer pages, selling for anywhere, in the 20s, um, sometimes high 20s for pretty, you know, fantastic examples, but maybe not A plus pages, for Silver Surfer Black. So there's got to be some sort of applicable ratio of SSB to Luther Strode to be applied as a measure of value. Unless this is Tradmore's Commandy, where nobody's gonna care
I
about
mean,
it.
even with SSB, I think we have to give it time,
Yeah.
to equalize. There was kind of a craziness to a small number of people acquiring, and
Yep.
so with more time, who knows? There aren't a ton of public marks, right, as far as
Mhm.
prices, and so you know,
Yeah.
if a handful of those pieces get to auction, what happens then? It
Right.
especially if the biggest buyers that were buying aren't the ones buying, which might have been the case with this page. It was kind of a frenzy for Strode, and
Mhm.
I guess some people got their fill, and then you know the consistent buyers that are fans that still want it, benefit obviously.
I'm thrilled that everybody stay away and and don't bid these up. That would be
Oh
great.
yeah,
I would love that.
yeah. I was
Maybe the
gonna.
maybe the movie got canceled,
I
right? So
thought
if there's
about
no
effing with you. I thought about effing with you, and
yeah.
maybe I should just grab it. But you know,
Well, it's we have a gentleman's agreement when we go into
yeah,
these
yeah.
auctions, which is
Yeah,
nice.
that's good,
You know,
that's
it is
good.
good.
I mean, there's
It is
times
good.
when people, we both know, we're friends with, like, at the end of the auction, they're like, "Oh man, I was the underbidder," and like, I guess it's my bad. Sometimes it's our bad just for not sharing.
Right,
Um,
right, for
but
sure.
yeah, I mean, sometimes I don't know, whether or not I'm actually gonna go for it.
Yeah, well, there are only a few people that I'm completely transparent
No,
with, and you're one of them. So,
yeah.
yeah, hopefully we'll stay off. We won't step on each other's toes.
Okay. Go back to the Otomo, which I thought went very cheap at
Oh,
93,750, and it's crazy to say 100 grand for this is cheap, but you're talking about Otomo, right? And there was some questions, some people we talked to, like, oh, it's just a color guide basically, but even then, piece. It's the finished piece. Um, you know, supposedly by Otomo. I mean, how much, how many opportunities are you gonna have to get that, right? And so let's say he just did this color section, and he also did the line work, but that's a copy.
hmm.
I mean, to me, there's enough line work here to say,
Looks pretty damn good there. Yeah.
right?
Yep. Even without the overlay.
And then at you know 94,000, I don't know, I feel like that's cheap,
Hmm.
relative to what it's worth, relative to, let's say, the yen wasn't getting crushed, and or every currency wasn't getting crushed relative to the dollar, and maybe this was in Japan, right? In a Japanese auction, like, uh, I think the results would be very different, right? When you have, you know, those sketches at, you know, Mandarake or whatever, there was that Berserk sketch by Miura, probably, like, what was that, 3-4 months ago, that went for like 50-60 grand. And so you got that going for like 50-60 grand. It's just a head sketch, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is a finished piece, man, by Otomo, right? I mean, I'm not comparing Otomo to Miura, but it's just huge, right? A huge, how big can you be, right? Like, he created Akira.
Yeah. The
And
man's a
so,
giant, and there's no
yeah,
supply. There's no supply of
yeah.
his art to be had.
So, I mean, I guess you get to the debate about color guide, but it's not a color guide. It's the finished it's the finished painted piece, right? And same with the Dark Knight stuff with the
You know
Lynn
where yep,
Barley. It's
you know
not a
where I stand
guide,
on this. Yeah.
right? It's not a guide. There are color guides where they painted watercolor, whatever, to give the printer a guide for which colors to use. And then there is actually, this is the finished painted colors, right? That are what are actually used in
Yeah.
this scenario and the Dark Knight. So the term color guide is a bad term, right? Because it's not technically a color guide.
It's color art.
Yeah. I mean, it's the
A guide,
finished color
whatever
art.
they could use crayons or a marker or whatever, and then whatever would end up being the finished product would look a hell of a lot different from whatever was put down on the page. When it looked exactly as it's put down on the page, that then I think it's something completely different.
Oh yeah, it is a different category altogether. And so you cannot, I don't think you can group them together. You know,
Yeah.
you cannot group this and like, you know, let's say the Felix Akira color guides. Those are color guides, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Are they different? I don't
I
know.
think they're
You know.
color guides. Yeah, and I think they're like small. They're on like tiny paper. They're cool. They're definitely
Yeah.
cool.
But yeah, I think this is whoever won
Actually,
it.
I'm
You
I'm
know.
I'm ignorant. I don't know exactly, so I probably shouldn't say. But we can ask
Okay.
Felix.
Whoever won this, I think, should be pretty happy with it. You know, and the price they paid for it.
Oh yeah,
So, all right, let's take a look at November.
November.
So here's what I want to talk about with November. The upcoming auction is there's like 800. How many?
800.
825 pieces in this auction, okay?
That's a
Like that's
lot,
a lot, okay?
and there are a lot of killer
Oh yeah,
pages.
yeah. There's multiple. There's like this is an auction where there's tons of multiple examples of like one thing, you know, be it Kirby, be it
Hmm.
Miller Sin City, be it, you know, um, EC complete stories.
Yep,
Like, if anything you're looking for, it's basically in here multiple times, right? You have multiple cracks, or you can be choosy, and so
yep. This
uh,
auction's like a comic art museum in itself.
yeah, and so
You
you
see the
know,
history of comics when you look at this.
I don't
It's
want to
it's
I don't want to
amazing.
predict anything, but even I think the last auction, um, you know, towards the end there was a lot of softness, you know,
Hmm.
and you know, Sandman, a lot of Sandman examples. Uh, if there's going to be an auction, I don't think there's going to be a crash, but where there's going to be a lot of good value, it's got to be this one, right? Because
I would think
you're
in
overloaded,
yeah.
and if it doesn't perform well here, then the auction after, all of a sudden, people start pulling. You know, it just becomes a little bit lighter, right? Because I'm like, that's not the prices I was expecting to get, right? So I don't know, you know. I mean, I've been buying a lot, but I feel like I wish I had way more ammo for this one because I just feel like there's going to be a chance to come away with like fantastic stuff at very reasonable prices. Okay.
I hope you're right.
So
I hope you're
and
right.
none of those pieces are we going to talk about,
Yeah. Uh,
right? Um,
uh, I mean, yeah, it's pretty amazing.
so your first piece.
I picked another Jim Lee,
Oh
right?
yeah.
The 80s guy picks Jim Lee. So 268. Okay, so this might be the last comic book that I ever bought.
Oh
This
really?
comic, yeah, in until like 5 years ago.
Okay.
So I think I was going into my senior year in high school, and I remember I had a summer job where I was working as a waiter in an Italian restaurant in Greenwich Village, and my uncle was one of the waiters there. And I just remember I had this issue. I brought it to work, and you know we get fed before the shift would start. So I just remember flipping through this and showing my uncle and just thinking that the art was just so cool.
Yeah.
So this was just, but I didn't really read any Jim Lee after that. I just thought the art was amazing in this one, and I love the cover too. So the cover, that was the one that sold is. And
Yeah.
it's hard to believe it's 2 years ago. The time
Yeah.
has really flown. That cover sold for 300,000, and people
Yeah.
were just sort of blown away with so now if that Hush cover that no one real I don't really remember that cover, but versus one of the most memorable Jim Lee covers, I mean, maybe would that be like a $500,000 cover, 400,000? I have no idea what it would be now. But a page from this issue back in Corona time, right when the pandemic first started, there was sort of a soft auction that happened then. Sold for like $5,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of it wasn't like a bad battle page or anything like that, but Logan was in it and some minor characters. So this is just really cool. And I remember there was one splash of Captain America, and he's kind of jumping like
Oh, yeah.
this with his arms above his head.
Yeah.
And my uncle pointed it out. He was a bodybuilder, and he said, hey, that's just somebody doing triceps extensions. And
Yeah.
Jim Lee just copied the pose from like Muscle and Fitness magazine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just super cool. Captain America fighting ninjas.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
when do you ever see that?
And the
That's
ninjas look great, like Jim Lee,
yeah. Yeah,
having
I
the,
like how he did the white, left out the white to represent the folds of
oh, yeah.
the costumes. Just great, just great. And then I love the way they did the inked the shield.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
don't know if that looks like it's probably zip.
Zip. Yep.
Yep. Very cool. So I don't know what this is going to go for. I mean, I would have to think that if the cover from this issue is, I would have to think, yeah, this has got to be at least like 150, maybe even 200. Well, but we'll see. It's just kind of nice to imagine.
Yeah, I mean, they got it up front and center. Who knows? I mean, who knows what? It's like, how do you even choose? How about you? Okay, Andy.
Yeah.
Yo, you're looking at this auction, like, and there's a lot of stuff you could possibly be interested in. You're a big Miller guy, ton of Miller. Okay,
Mhm.
how do you even start breaking that down? Like, or are you going, hey, I have my eye on these few with price ranges, and if they kind of sneak, under the radar, then it'll be mine. Or is there like I must have this?
Are we talking about me with my
Just
current
yeah,
set of financial
you're
constraints?
yes, yeah, your
Yeah,
current,
okay.
you know,
My current mode is very
like this auction with this specific auction, right? Because this is a very specific case where it's stacked, right? An
yeah.
auction that's stacked with just almost unlimited, like anything you can desire, really, right?
Yeah, I'm in a very different stage of my collecting right now, right? So I'm really not going after big trophy pieces. I got the vintage, a lot of the key vintage pages that I would like to have. There, there are obviously some things I would like to get, but I'm not looking to spend huge amount of money on anything. It's sort of like getting, you get that cool Trad Moore page. That's kind of where my collecting is. But if I let's say if I did have, um, you know, Bill Gates's wallet for a day, um, there'd just be so much. There'd be so much to buy in this auction. I mean, there was isn't I think there's a Watchmen page. There's a V for Vendetta page. There's the Sin City. It's not just Miller Sin City. It's Hard Goodbye. So I
Mm-hmm.
think there are like 3 pages from
There are multiple pages. Yes,
Hard Goodbye, and
they're
that was the one
fantastic.
that, yeah, Frank held on to, and then some leaked out. I think it was last year. Some guys got an opportunity to get some, and I've got that's another story. But yeah, just some amazing stuff in this auction. I don't even know where I'd begin.
I mean, you say, where you are right now, but on any given auction, you might decide, hey, let's go for it.
There might be
Um,
some, I mean, like I'll watch things with price ranges, right? So what usually happens is I'll tab 30 things that I like.
well,
In this auction, it may be more, right? And then sometimes the pre-bidding just takes me beyond
mhm.
where I'm potentially interested, right? But I'll always wait and just see where it goes live, because it might get bid up to X, and then if it's only like X plus 2 bids and it goes for, I'll feel like a dope for not watching it. But I usually end up whittling it down to, maybe 3 or 4 pieces that I'm watching, and then I just, see where the price comes in. If it comes in something where, unless it's a gotta have thing, in which, I might go kind of stupid on it. But I don't feel like there's a whole lot of those types of things
Okay.
out there.
I mean, there's a lot of gotta have in here, man.
Yeah,
Potentially.
potentially.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Next we got
Yeah. But that page is just in fantasy land. I mean, there's like no way I would ever own that page.
for that page you wouldn't go to
Right.
the mat, but there are pages in this auction that you might.
I don't. I'm honestly. I think my kids are. My daughter's going to college. I look at these pages and I see
Hey, just she'll get her
years of
loans
tuition.
forgiven, man. She'll get her loans forgiven. So next up, you put up a couple of Invincible.
Yeah, I thought this was really interesting. This is the daddy issues
Yeah,
sequence where,
within the show.
yep, he gets his ass beat by his dad.
Yeah,
And I thought it was interesting to note, because in a prior auction, I think it was this year, two Invincible pages went for big bucks. Yeah, 14
there
and
you go.
15,000,
Yeah,
right? So it'll be interesting to see where these land. Pages 12 and 13. These are pages 15 and 16 in this auction. Are they going to go for 15,000 each? I have no idea. But it's interesting to see, because how many issues of Invincible was there? Like
100 and
over
well into the hundreds. Yeah,
well into the hundreds, right?
yeah,
So how, with that many pages out there, and more and more in the wild, um, and probably more to be sold, later on, um, every you create this sort of subset of things to create
yeah.
higher value, and this particular moment is just so memorable in the book. So it's not something I'm gonna buy. I think it'll, if I had to bet, it's 10 to 15. I don't think these are quite as good as those other ones. But yeah, there's probably two guys, or two men and women, dueling. Well, let's be honest, probably guys, dueling over these, that propelled them to that price. So I would probably expect a similar one, but it's just something
It's hot,
interesting to
man.
watch.
Invincible's hot,
Yeah,
you know? Yeah, I mean, and it could even be the voice actors. How do we not know it's them? Just like, hey, let me get some Invincible. That's me. Steven Yeun, and then whoever the
yeah,
dad, right?
yeah. Yeah, well,
Oh look,
and
that's
it was
me.
interesting, but I was just at New York Comic Con, and I only went on Thursday, because I just hate crowds, and I couldn't. Thursday wasn't sold out. Friday, Saturday, Sunday were, and then I just don't like being around that many people. So so, but there was this vendor, and I think I told you about this before. They had a board of these magnets, and it was of these classic
Yeah.
comic moments. So they had, like a Born Again, Daredevil Born Again, Batman Year One, Dark Knight Returns, some crazy, like that Galactus, that famous Galactus Kirby cover, from Fantastic Four, just iconic, like every single one so recognizable. The McFarlane Wolverine, with the Hulk, that cover, and then they had the cover for Invincible One, as a magnet too, next to all those things. So it just it just shows you how significant this series is. And again, it was published when, in the 2000s or something like that. So it was like a period of
Yeah.
time when I really wasn't, paying much attention to comics. But
I mean, I read it after it was done, and
mm,
I mean, it's one of the greatest superhero stories I've ever read. It helps that it's like has a beginning and an end, right? It's not just. I mean, I think that downgrades a lot of big two stuff. It's just never ending, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just variations of the same stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you're talking about just entertainment, like I flew through these, the trades,
Mhm.
not the trades, but the Ultimate Collection, and there was not. I mean, there was not any part of it where it was just like, oh, this is pretty slow or this is not entertaining. Whole way through, right? Great read, and I mean, to me, it's just a classic story. Like, how can you not? You got to read it, and chances are pretty high you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Um,
And this is one of the most memorable scenes in the whole book.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I can see why people went off on it.
I kind of wish I waited before I just went nuts buying, trying to buy up, art from it. Just sometimes that's the big pitfall is just not knowing what's out there or like how to get it because it's not like invincible art is like there's so much of it, but you can't see like where it's at. Like, and who knows where these pages came from? They're not from calf.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and who knows if Kirkman's not, in there dueling for these.
yeah, probably not though.
Yeah.
All right, here's your Sin City one. Freaking ridiculous.
Crazy, right? I mean, just super draftsmanship, and
I mean, who doesn't want this, right? Who does not want this? This moment, right?
this moment, yeah, from Hard Goodbye. So you see a lot of Sin City pages from other books going for 7-10 ish. I think a lot of these were acquired for low 30s in the private market. I don't know where these came from, if they're coming directly from Frank or if someone who was able to get them, get it from that private purchase that happened before has decided to move them. But yeah, pretty cool. I mean, I'm more of a panel page guy. I'm not a splash guy. But I just think it's a really memorable image, and
Oh man.
it's disgusting.
And
But
you look, it's like there's not a ton of white out. I mean, for someone like the blood or like sweat or whatever, right?
yeah,
I'm assuming it's blood. But like this is all just the board, like negative space, right?
it's so cool how he trained his mind to think in terms of black and white in
Yeah.
that way. It's just such a his art, particularly in Hard Goodbye, it's just so amazing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I'm thinking probably 40, 50, if I had to guess.
I don't know. That sounds kind of low to me.
Yeah,
No. For this,
it could be.
for this,
It could
right?
be.
Like
Yeah,
I don't know. You
yeah.
know.
It's highly sought after, right? I mean, like this
I mean,
the
how
that
many
first
people will be after this, right? And
storyline.
that,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I don't, I don't want to ruin it for anybody watching that's going to be in the mix here, but you know, there's a handful of people that probably want this bad, that have the money, But then where does it take it?
Right. Exactly.
All right, we got a Aces High number 4, Wally Wood. There's a couple of these stories from Aces High number 4. There's a Krigstein story, but yeah, I just like these, man. You know, for some reason, like the airplane stuff, like I guess people don't like them as much. They tend to be a little bit cheaper. But it looks like this is a lot of like zipatone here with the clouds.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Um, I just these planes I think are just cool. It's Wally Wood, you know.
creates nice contrast on the page.
Yeah,
The shadows on the biplane.
yeah,
It it it's really cool.
right?
Yeah.
It's just cool to have. It would be awesome to have a complete Wally Wood story, EC story, huge pages. You know,
Hmm.
like 14 by 20, something like that.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I just think this type of stuff might fall under the radar, you know?
Great pick. That's super cool.
Right?
Ah, that's amazing. Yeah.
And Wally Wood, man, is prime. So good.
A plus.
It's just great art, you know, draftsmanship. Ronin, you love yourself some Ronin.
Oh man. Yeah, yeah. It's definitely uh one of my it just blew my mind when it came out.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like it. And for me, it was the height of Frank's draftsmanship. Particularly the first issue of Ronan. I think he, it stayed pretty high level through the second, but then he shifted the style a little bit, and maybe he started hitting deadline issues. So it looked like the art was a little rushed
Mm.
from halfway through to maybe a little bit into five, and then I think he finished strong in six.
Why is all this Ronin art coming out? It's all from the first issue, it seems.
Yeah, the first one was the only one that was broken up. And I think there were
Okay.
two pages. There were a couple of battle pages that Frank gave to a friend that
Uh-huh.
showed up at auction. But otherwise, the first issue was the one that was chopped up. But Frank kept some of those for himself. So other than that, he's got all of the art. And this one sold at Heritage just recently. I think in 20, maybe like a year or two ago, maybe.
Oh, really?
And
I
yeah,
don't remember this.
it sold for 13, so it'll be kinda
Oh,
interesting to see
wow.
where this lands. Maybe the person is thinking that with Ronin 2, the
Mhm.
new series coming out, maybe it's like an opportunistic listing, just try to see if there's any
I mean,
pump.
the other pages have been doing pretty well at auction too, so
Yeah, they've been doing really well, but this one only sold for 13-ish, just fairly recently. So we'll see where it ends up landing. It's still super cool, but it doesn't have the main character on it. And just sort of pointing out the obvious, but it does have Virgo, the sentient, AI computer, the the evil entity in the book.
it's hard to be
Um,
too choosy though, right? If you're after one of these.
no, no, and it would be a great opportunity to get a to get a page from this book.
Okay. I gotta put a Jim Lee in there too.
Nice.
Since you're such a big Frank guy, and you know I like me my Jim Lee. We got the combination,
This definitely looks like,
the
he
Sin
was paying
City
attention to Sin
inspired.
City.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, no doubt about it. And I think there was a huge backlash from the fans because you know it was a totally different look, right, than what you expect from Jim Lee.
Yeah. Those look like he's wearing Marv's pants.
Yeah. So basically, um, I'm assuming this is inked by Jim, right? It's pure Jim Lee. Um, and I think this might be surprising. This might surprise in terms of you know how high it goes.
Do you remember this book? Was this a book you read?
No, by this time I think I stopped.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
probably stopped by this time. Um,
When did you stop reading comics? How old were you?
Phew. Sometime in high school, probably like 94. When is this from?
Okay.
94, 95,
So were you
95 ish.
like a senior in high school?
Yeah, in 96 I was a senior.
Okay.
That's when I graduated.
Yeah.
So
That's when a
yeah,
lot
by
of
then
people stop.
I'm not reading
Yeah.
any comics.
Yeah. That's when a lot of people seem to stop.
Yeah. And then, I like in college there was I stopped by shops every once in a while, but I had no clue what I was looking at. I mean, I barely remember
Yeah.
what was there. This was late 90s, so I don't, but I think, I mean, I knew about Death Blow, right? Maybe it was cuz the build up to it. Like I was still reading comics while this was all getting built up, and then I was done by the time it actually came out.
Yeah. That first panel also looks really frank too. The one on the left. Yeah. Looks
Oh
really
yeah,
Sin
I mean it's
City.
heavily inspired, right?
Yeah.
But I think this will
That
surpri-
thumb on the bottom panel. Yeah.
this will go surprisingly high.
Yeah. Cool. That was a great choice to, complement the ones that we were looking at. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sheldon Moldoff
Yeah.
as Bob Kane.
Yeah. So he was like a ghost artist for Bob Kane on Batman. And I just think this is a really fun page. It reminds me the same sort of feeling of the TV show,
Yeah.
with the sound effects and beating up the goofy henchmen. But let's go down to the bottom, and you can see who is addressed to. To Vince, Joe, to Vince. I wonder who he gave it to. Huh. Anyway, pretty cool page.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going to. Oh wait, no, there's another. This is inscribed to Eileen as well. Huh.
Where?
Yeah, like right underneath Robin.
Oh,
Um,
here.
yeah.
Bob Kane.
Ah, very cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah, just a really fun page. I think I was looking on Heritage prior results, for these types of pages. They didn't go that expensive, so who knows? But this is super cool. I think it'll probably go higher than some of these other ones. Oh, whoa, okay, wow.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty expensive. Yeah, I was looking at some cheaper ones for some reason when I did my search.
Okay.
Okay.
A couple from me. Mobius. We always got to put Mobius in.
Beautiful.
This is a great page. This is like a sick moment, where this girl's taken hostage, the daughter of can't remember who, and she's frozen. And this sick duo, this chick just breaks off her finger. She's frozen and she breaks off her
What the
finger.
hell?
So they're
Uh,
basically like you know um getting this guy to do their will by having his daughter captured, and prisoner. And yeah, I mean, I always thought this was just a crazy, sick moment in the story.
yeah, look at the design of that chamber too.
Uh,
Like the shell-like um, scalloped background. So crazy. Guy's a genius. His line is just gorgeous.
uh, everything's perfectly placed, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you're that good, you don't have to put a ton of shading on it.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just it's just his control of the line weight is so great um, that it's visually interesting enough, and his placement of all of the features is so spot on perfect that you don't have to hide it with a lot of hatching or feathering or what have you. Just
Yeah,
beautiful.
this is a great page. Actually, yeah, I mean, this is the type of page where I'll have my eye on it, and if people are distracted,
Right.
and this is not like an attention-grabbing page, right? None of the main characters are on here, right?
Right. Right.
And so, but it's just like for me, it's a great moment. Um, important to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, obviously, it's beautiful, and so I'll like, if it falls under the radar, like some of his results have, and the euros are just weak. With the euro being so weak, then I might take advantage.
Every time I see a Mobius page, it makes me wish that I'd studied French instead
Yeah.
of
Oh yeah,
Spanish.
dude. I actually did the Duolingo French for a bit
Oh, really?
just to
Okay.
try to learn some. I mean, now I could recognize some words, but
Okay.
dude, it's just so hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did actually buy a French bande dessinée recently just because I bought some art from there and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't translated.
Yeah.
So, I just bought it just to have it and then I'll like Google Translate what I
Super
can.
cool.
All right. I put this Kirby in here.
Nice.
Tales of Suspense. 98 Captain America, Black Panther.
Oh, we did well. We got Joe Sinnott on
Yep.
inks and
Yep.
Bill Everett on the other one. So
I mean,
classic.
you know,
Crackle.
the Kirby, tech, Kirby Crackle, Cap and Black Panther. Yeah, I mean, the more and more I look at Kirby and the black and white stuff, really, the original art, it's just like he gets better and better and better.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Gosh, that feathering effect. What an inker Sinnott was. Amazing.
fantastic,
Yep.
fantastic. Imagine having this Kirby page.
Oh, that'd be great.
It's a little bit later, and it's not twice
Yeah.
up, but
You can. I mean, you really appreciate how I have one of his artist editions. I think it's like an artisan edition, the smaller size,
yeah.
and just take some tracing paper and trace over the figures and just see how damn good the guy was. It's
Yeah.
just amazing.
So much weight, just so much weight to the figures and just power to the hands, like
Yep.
look at Captain America holding this thing, man. Look at that hand.
Mm-hmm. It's great. And the dude probably drew it in like 2 seconds because he drew like 10 pages a day.
Oh yeah. Yep. That's a few of the pieces. A ton of ridiculous pieces, okay? Ton of Frazetta, Johnny Comet. Romita Senior, there's like one Ditko Spidey in there, but a lot of Sam Keith, a lot of Tim Sale, a couple Eric Larson. How do you even choose, man?
It's incredible.
Huh?
Bernie Wrightson. Wow.
Yeah, a lot of Wrightson. I mean, you want to come away with something, Actually, I had something that I had chosen. Whatever. It was a
Yeah.
Sienkiewicz, a Hit Girl page.
Oh, that's right. I saw that. Yeah, that
Cover.
was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool. She had a humongous gun.
There's a complete
Creature.
Preacher story. There's a Preacher cover, a complete Preacher story.
Yeah.
Um,
Cool American flag cover.
yeah.
Man, there's just so much. Lose your inhibitions. Give in.
What is this?
Give in to your weakest.
Fighting American. Kirby and Simon. 1954. I mean, is this historic or what?
Damn, that's pretty cool.
Golden Age Kirby and Simon.
Yeah. I mean, maybe all this great stuff will bring out bring out all the big boys, and everything will be super contested, and the values will be high. Or maybe people are tapped out, and you might something might fall through the cracks here.
I don't know.
Another,
What do you think?
oof.
Do you think there's 800 whatever 44 pieces here?
Yeah, and
Okay,
the overall
like
macro isn't great,
yeah,
and it's before any year-end bonuses which are probably gonna suck this year. So yeah, it could be dicey. I think it'll be more like the little stuff that'll fall through the cracks. Anything that's really good will still at least be fairly priced. Like
no,
no crazy steals, I don't think.
I don't know. There's just so much, man. There's just so much here that it's just like,
Wow.
dude, I didn't even,
This is great. You don't even
dude, there's
you
so
don't
many
even have to buy
people.
a thing. You don't even have to buy a thing. You just see this and you just appreciate the art.
Yeah, you
You
can
you can
appreciate the
save
art,
the
but
scans. I've
is
got this folder with all of these things I can't afford, but I just love the art.
yeah, there's a
And
difference between that and knowing that it's yours, right?
big time.
I mean, that's
Definitely.
why, right?
Yeah, I don't it, it the scan is always isn't doesn't really always represent what the page looks like in real life.
Oh yeah, holding it in your hand and even stuff that I did a call and I was selling a bunch of stuff and like as soon as you pull it out and look at it up close, you don't want to sell it anymore because it's so
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
right? So
Definitely you should, yeah, definitely don't make any decisions without having the page in front of you.
yeah, dude, it's just a huge auction. Um, I can't see how this auction does not have. There's actually more than one preacher cover right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I want that one on the wall in my living room, but
Hey, one of the great comic characters of all time. Okay,
Yeah. What's the guy's name? Is it like Ass Face or
our
something?
space, our
Ass
space,
Arse
our
Face.
space. Which I recently acquired an R space page, which you must have
Oh,
if you're a fan of
congrats.
Preacher. Yes.
Congrats. You should make that your icon on Comic Art Fans.
We'll do reading on this
Yeah.
channel, all right?
Oh,
On
that'll be
one of
good.
the R space pages.
Uh,
Yeah, so thanks for coming on. Yo.
Thanks for having me. It was always fun.
Yeah, I mean this
I don't know how
auction.
much fun it is for people listening to us.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's like sometimes some entertaining and just you can see how much we love this stuff, and you might see some cool art. But hopefully we're not boring you to death.
Yeah.
But it's I just we just we could Jason and I we could just talk about this stuff for hours.
Oh yeah. We
Yeah,
just did,
just
you
we
know.
just yeah,
And we could continue. We could continue. So
exactly.
yeah, so this big auction in November, I think there's going to be some softness in here, decent amount of softness, even at the top end. Like, we're not going to see like crazy record breaking.
Yeah.
Um, you know, yeah, I mean, and I noticed tons of people trying to sell, leading into this auction. So we'll see how it
Hmm.
goes. But um, it should be fun. I think this is probably the most fun auction, you know, where I'm interested in a lot of stuff. Not that I'll be able to be buying in a while, And ever since that January auction, it was January, right, when the Secret Wars page went.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think everything has been, sideways to down since then.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, so probably like just do a chart of the S&P 500 or a chart of Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, and just compare just asset prices versus art prices. And I don't want anyone to take away, just say like, oh, these guys just all they do about is they care about money, and then like they're just talking about dollars. I mean, it's a consideration, because if you want to own this art, you have to pay for it,
I
right? So
mean, you
this is
really,
part of determining what to pay is part of it. And I do think that it's going to be correlated with overall asset prices. And this is just probably the most toxic macro environment that we've been in for years, coming off of a really hot period, right? So I'd love to see this stuff come down, and I don't care what it does to the value of my collection. If it can allow me to buy something superb for a great price, and have it in my collection forever. I'm looking for forever pieces. I'm looking, I don't want to, it's not about flipping and making money. It's really about just having a piece of art that inspires you, that every time you look at it, you feel this glow of
yeah,
pride and appreciation.
you definitely gotta love it. I think at the levels that we're at, you cannot go balls to the wall without like loving it, and yeah, I mean, these are pretty strong prices, that we've seen, and yeah, I mean, I if you're buying thinking you're going to flip, I don't think that's a very good idea. I
Yeah.
mean, no one wants to pay whatever the number 10, 20, 30,000 for something that you could buy for half that. And
Hmm.
I'm not saying things are overinflated by 100% or overvalued by 100%, but it's kind of just like, yeah, this stuff pumped hard the last 2 years, and
Hmm.
everything, and
You can still find great art for cheap though. Like,
yeah.
Jason, do you have that? Can you pull up that Tusca Unexpected page?
Oh, okay. Give me a second.
Yeah, just search like Tusca Unexpected. So
Let's see
there's a
this.
story behind this one, where I was, I go through the weekly auction, and I loved this page when I saw it. I had never read the story or anything like that, but I just thought it was a beautifully composed page. And yeah, I didn't think it was going to go for a whole lot. It's DC horror, right? From you go to past
Here we
sale.
go.
Yeah, is that it? Yeah.
Here we go. No, no, this
No,
ain't
no,
it.
no. You just go up and then click on the blue. Yeah, past sales. I think it's scroll down. Scroll down. One more. There it is.
Here,
Is that it? Yeah, that's it.
yeah, this is it.
Okay, so this was a lot of 3 pages.
Ah,
3 pages. It sold for $234. Now look at this page. It's absolutely
fantastic.
beautiful.
Actually, the reason how we got onto this was the Comic Connect auction. There was a Golden Age Tusca page or like a title splash from I think Crime Does Pay.
Okay.
Um and I was just like bidding with this whoever, right?
Oh,
And
I
it was just
remember that
getting like
one. That one
crazy up
was
there. Yeah.
it was
It,
so
wa-
cool. That
it
that
was
page was
getting crazy
amazing.
up there.
Yeah.
Like it came into the bidding at like cheap. It was cheap. It was under 1,000 or 2,000, and then
Yeah.
we ended up bidding it up to like um way past 10,000.
Mhm.
And I was just going. I was like, what am I doing? But it looks so great. Let me see if I could find it.
Yeah.
And then I told you about it, and you're like, oh, I love Tusca, And then and then you were like, you showed me this page from
Yeah. I said like, and then it came up later. It was like, oh, this is the one that got away. And then you did an eBay search, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You looked for it, and it was there for sale. So
yeah,
whoever bought it from this auction was flipping it. I mean, and I paid, I think I forget what I paid. Like, what is it, 400, $500 or something like that for just that page. So this guy made out like a bandit, but I missed that. I missed the auction. It was one of those things where I had, meant to be there, and you just miss the auction, and you feel like such a dope.
yeah.
But this is the rare one where you get to get one back. But my point is that the art's beautiful, and it can be had inexpensively. So I mean,
This
just look at
sold
that. It's
for
just
the
amazing. What an
three
amazing
pages
page.
in 2020. So right after, as COVID is just devastating the world and we're shutting down,
Yeah,
someone buys these 3 pages for less than $100 a page.
right. And
And
maybe
then
we're in that kind of a market now, and we're heading into that kind of an environment, with asset prices, and maybe there'll be stuff like that. At least, but I just love this page. It's amazing.
you bought it on eBay
I
for
bought it on eBay thanks to you. So it's good to have friends in the hobby who are looking out for you.
not a ridiculous price.
Yeah, I'm super pleased. Thank you so much, Jason. I really appreciate it, man.
Anytime, anytime.
Anytime you can
It was
enable
crazy. It was
enable
crazy
my
that
habit. Yeah. It's crazy that it was just happened to be for sale at that moment. Yeah.
oh, maybe it didn't go to 10K. My memory of the thing was so exciting.
No.
But yeah, I mean, the auction started at like sub 1,000, the bidding, and then it was
Yeah.
just me, I think, and this dude, whoever won it, like just constant.
Oh, that's so good, man. Congrats to whoever won it. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
this is
mean, it was a fantastic page, and I mean, crime does not pay, but you
ladies
know,
man,
just
gang
great.
leader, murderer for hire, double crosser,
Uh,
G-man killer.
we got
I love that.
Yo Curry in the house. But look, I mean, this great cheesecake,
Oh, man.
50s. I mean, this is amazing work from, Tuska,
Yeah. I
you
love
know?
it. I love it.
So this pattern upholstery or whatever.
So
Yeah, it was
cool.
just fantastic page, but whoever was bidding against me just 1948. So,
Oh.
you
Why
know,
so weak, Jason? Why
70
so
some
weak?
70 some year old page, man.
Uh,
Well,
that's super.
just didn't have the wherewithal.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. I gotcha. Gotta call it quits sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't win everything.
Yeah, I probably went like 4 or 5,000 too high. It's like I went in thinking like, oh, it might be a good value buy. I'll get it because I like the
You
way it
must have
looks.
really liked it. You
The
must have
artwork.
really yeah, you
Uh,
really liked it.
and sometimes when you get into that bidding, you just don't stop. Anyway, all
Anyway.
right,
All right, my friend.
yo, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for
Thanks
having
everyone
me.
for watching.
Always fun.
Hey, and just a request from the audience: if I get to 100 subscribers, I get like a short URL, not like one of these long alphabet soup URLs. So please subscribe if you're entertained at all by the channel. Thanks, yo. See you next time.
Thanks, Jason.
All right.